What are our other rules? We drew for the order of opening statements. And then we drew for the order of closing statements. It's all very random. That's the way we did that. On the order of responses to which, so every question will go to all of the candidates. There will not be a question directed specifically to a candidate. What we're going to do on that is we're going to rotate the order of responses. First question, we'll go left to right. See you all, so you'll go first on the first question. Jeff first on the second question, etc. Does that make sense? We reserve the right, or I do as moderator, to ask a follow-up question. If I see fit, and this does not look like a group that's going to really get after each other, but should be rebuttal. If one candidate is singled out for some criticism or something, I might give that candidate a little time for rebuttal. Also want to thank Amy Novak for her outstanding help getting this organized. So let's dig right in. Will you meet with your constituents at times other than during opening statements? Couldn't do it without you. All right, true. Opening statements. All right. 1 minute each. Yep. Okay. Councilwoman Valerie Butler goes first on opening statements.
Good afternoon. First of all, I want to welcome you all coming out tonight. My name is Valerie Butler, and I am running for re-election to Smithfield Town Council. I'm running because I'm in it to win it. I do have some unfinished business from my first term. I'm a lifelong resident here in Smithfield. My parents live here. They're 88 and 85. And then I also have some young friends here from Smithfield High School who I like to engage in local government. So I'm looking forward to serving you for another 4 years.
Thank you, Ms. Butler. Next is Jeff Brooks.
I'm Jeff Brooks, and I'm a new resident of Smithfield. Been here a little less than 2 years. Came here from Virginia Beach after 31 years. Still have a business there and some real estate. However, I got tired of 500,000 people in one particular city, and I could have moved anywhere. I looked at towns like Charleston, Savannah, and Smithfield came to mind because of its proximity to Richmond, where I still have family, to Virginia Beach, which I still have family there as well. And I've got some ideas that I'd like to share with this town. I love this town. I live here in the historic district. I've got the most fantastic neighbors, and the community is very, very welcoming. And I would like a shot at making some decisions on town council. Thank you.
Candidates, while it may not seem necessary here in the room, please use your mic because it will have benefit for the TV audience watching, right? So please use your microphone for your statements and as you answer the questions. Next will be incumbent Councilman Wayne Hall.
Good afternoon, folks. My name is Wayne Hall. I moved here in 1961 with my parents. I've been here off and on for the last, since 61. I left to do a tour in the Army, and then I moved to Newport News to be on the police department, but I started a law enforcement career here in January '74. I retired from Newport News and Isle of Wight. I'm a lieutenant of special operations with Isle of Wight Rescue Squad. I love this community. I used to be considered to come here, and some people still do, but I feel like I'm one of the residents here. I love this town, and I want to see us grow. We have to grow to succeed, but that has to be controlled, so that's something we've got to work on. I appreciate everyone coming out tonight. Thank you.
Next is incumbent Mayor Carter Williams.
Thank you, sir. I would like to start off by thanking everyone by coming out tonight. That's mighty kind of you. I also like to thank Renee and Steve for having this forum tonight. That is great. I've been living in this area for a long time. I've been on the town council for 18 years. I've been mayor for 10 or 11 years. And I'm running again because I guess now it's a habit. It's something that I love to do. I love working with the town and the people in it. Do everything I can for everybody. And it's just part of my everyday life. So that's why I'm running again for 4 more years. And if I'm elected, I'll keep on doing what I've been doing. Thank you.
Final opening statement is from Steve Bowman.
Thank you, Steve. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Steve Bowman. I'm a resident of Smithfield for 40 years, December 1st. I came here as a very young police officer in 1981. As a former Virginia State Trooper. I was Chief Deputy Sheriff of the county here. I also have a Bachelor of Science degree in Governmental Administration from Christopher Newport University, and a former Commissioner of Marine Resources, having served under 3 governors and appointed by 4. In that period of time, I managed an agency that had about a $33 million operating budget, had about 160 employees, and was responsible for the water safety and the marine resources of the Commonwealth. I'm running for council because I love this town. This town has been very good to me for the 40 years that I've been here. I believe, based on my knowledge and skill set and education, that I have the tools in the toolbox to do a good job as a town councilman and hit the ground running on the first day that, if elected, that I am inaugurated. So I look forward to the vote and support, and I thank you all for coming out tonight. Thank you very much.
Candidates will have up to 90 seconds to answer each question. You don't have to use your 90 seconds. In fact, if you don't use the full 90 seconds, we'll get more questions in. We have a lot of questions. And by the way, not too late to submit a question. So we still have some index cards in circulation. So just walk right up here, hand them to Renee here on the front row, and she'll make sure it gets up to me, because we want to cover as much ground as we can tonight. Okay, first question, and Steve Bowman, you'll give the first response to this question. Will you meet with your constituents at times other than during official council meetings?
The simple answer is yes. I believe if you run for town council, or if you run or in any member of the government, you should be available at any given time. I think that through my course of campaigning, I've heard that the council from time to time has not been approachable, and I believe that it is a necessity, without a doubt, that you should always be available to your constituents, regardless of what the subject matter might be or what the schedule is. So obviously the answer for me would be yes, I will be available to meet at any given time that's mutually agreeable to both. Thank you.
Ready?
Yeah, simple answer is of course. When I decided to look at potentially running for town council, I realized that that is a public servant job. We're not up here for a full-time job. We're not looking up here for fortune and fame. We're here to serve our community. And I am a firm believer in having very open communication with all the constituents. It's extremely important to me. When I was running my business, I had an open door policy, 100%. It didn't matter if it was the janitor or if it was the controller of the company. If somebody had a concern and they wanted to talk about an issue, then that's what I did. That's just the way I operate. And I think it's extremely important for everybody in town council or even planning commission, for that matter, to be able to discuss things when people have a concern. So simply put, of course. Thank you.
Ms. Butler.
That's a very easy question to answer. I concur with Steve as well as Jeff. My door is always open 24/7, be it in-person meeting or text messages or emails. I try to be responsive to all three. You know, as a matter of fact, you know, there has been a project that's before us, and it probably had the largest attendance since I've been on town council. But out of that meeting, I've even attended some of their meetings, and we may not agree on all the issues. And I think that's what brings the variety, or listen to somebody else's opinions of that I may have a different opinion about. But out of that meeting with them, I have formed a friendship of 4 people. So it's very important to have an open door policy to listen to all people that I serve.
Mr. Hall.
I will echo the other candidates, yes. And one of the positions that I am running on, I have stated numerous times that I will listen to the majority of the people and vote the majority of the people's vote. Whether I agree with it or not, as long as it's not illegal, immoral, or unethical. And I've done that in the past, and I will continue to do that going forward in the future. I've been a public servant in this area for the last 40+ years. And being on town council, it's still the same thing as a public servant, and I want to serve the public. And I will continue to do that in that manner.
I was just about to say, those of you who go last on the question might forget the question. If you have the same problem I do, you get it.
So far, good.
So the question, Mayor, is,
Yes.
will you meet with your constituents at times other than during official council meetings?
For the last 18 years, I certainly have, and will continue to do so. Today alone, I've gotten over 80 emails. I don't know how many phone calls and text messages already today, and I try to answer every single one of them. Sometimes it's at night, late at night when I answer them, and sometimes it's the next morning, but I do answer everybody that calls me or gets in touch with me. And there are a lot of people, and I enjoy that. That's what I like about it, the interaction with the citizens of the town of Smithfield, and I'll keep on doing that. I love to do that. So give me a call. Everybody's got my number. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Quick sound check. How are you all hearing? You hearing all the candidates good? Any candidates need to speak up? Put the mic closer to them. Just let us know if you're having trouble hearing me out there. Okay, next question. Jeff Brooks, you'll be the first to answer this question. And by the way, audience, a lot of questions were asked kind of the same way, maybe just, it's like variation in it, and I'm going to do my best to consolidate on topics so that we get the maximum number of topics covered tonight. How do we protect preservation of our historic district in the face of infringing development when roads in the historic district are narrow and cannot be widened? Mr. Brooks.
Great question, and it's something that I think about quite often because it's been pretty apparent what some of my platforms are, and it's controlled growth. And growth is inevitable, and we need to have growth. If you're not growing, you're dying. However, it needs to be managed properly. It needs to be done in a well thought out manner. And you're right, the roads are skinny, and we don't have a plan for a future development that's going on down at the corner of Main and 10th. Traffic is a big concern of mine for that reason. The difficulty of that is with that growth, whether it is the Mallory Scott development, which is forthcoming, a lot of that traffic will be impeding or coming into the town, and that is a very big concern of mine. How do we do that? It's going to have to be very thought out dialogue with traffic engineers, VDOT, and the entities that can make that happen. But I agree, people love to come to this town. Our tourism department is fantastic, and we want people to come here. But we need to protect what we have here within an area that cannot handle any more growth within the town. Thank you.
Ms. Butler, and again, candidates, anytime you need to repeat a question, just let me know and I will.
I was going to ask him to repeat that question.
Sure. How do we protect preservation of our historic district in the face of infringing development when roads in the historic district are narrow and cannot be widened?
In sitting down and trying to decide on what I thought some things that were important to the citizens of the town of Smithfield, and historic preservation was one of those things. With the planned growth that we have, we need to find a way to compromise. I don't know if it's reducing the speed limit, eliminating street parking, or what it is, but I do know that the anticipated project that we do have that will be coming before us, we are in talks with VDOT to try to alleviate some of the situation, and that is an ongoing conversation. So hopefully with those scheduled meetings that we can come up with a solution that will resolve some of the traffic in the historic district.
Mr. Hall.
In retrospect of what's proposed at maybe 15 or 10, before anything can happen, I think we really need to address the traffic and find ways to detour around the historic district. It is important that that be done. One of the things, as Renee and some of the others have alluded to, we're in conversations with VDOT. But VDOT's not the only answer. We need to focus on local law enforcement and enforcing the traffic laws and these speed limits in this particular area and having that enforced. So it's got to be a combined effort for everyone involved to make sure that this is done to help protect our historic district. Thank you.
Yeah, that's an ongoing problem in the little old town of Smithfield. It used to have horse and buggies walking up and down the street, and the houses haven't moved. The horse and buggies have gotten a whole lot bigger. Michael Stallings and Mike Smith and myself have met with VDOT 2 or 3 times about what to do about Carey Street, Gray Street, and the area around that historic area. We came up with the idea of taking everything off of Mill Swamp Road that comes into Carey Street and put a flyover going down the side where the bypass goes under Carey Street and Mill Swamp Road, and fly over going east and take all that, that'll alleviate all that traffic. Everybody knows that everything coming off of Mill Swamp Road has got to go through town right now if they're gonna come through here. They don't even want to stop in town, they're going somewhere else. The same thing with the YMCA, talking to VDOT about putting a stoplight out on the bypass and cutting through that field there and going right straight into the YMCA. You'd be surprised at how many people go into that area. That would leave a lot of traffic off of Carey Street and James Street, and go straight into YMCA, and people leaving YMCA go out the same way and hit the bypass and use that. Another thing is it's going to increase the traffic on the bypass, and that's talk already about widening that. It should have been done when it was built in the first place. I know 2 or 3 of the people around here got together then and tried to make it a 4-lane highway, and VDOT put the hands in. Thank you very much.
Quick follow-up on that. What was VDOT's response on the flyover idea? Was that their idea? Or
their response is always, we'll look into it, then you don't hear anything else back from them. So you got to bring it up in another meeting.
Mr. Bowman.
Thank you, Steve. In anticipation of the development coming, I took the opportunity to meet with a former VDOT traffic engineer. We rode around the neighborhoods and looked at the streets, and to the mayor's credit, one of the ideas that did come up was the flyover aspect from him as well. I think it's a good idea, but you have to be very, very careful in the design that you don't create a choke point as you come off of there with the intersection of Route 10 and Main Street as well through there. As far as the narrow streets are concerned, either when I was chief of police or as a very young police officer, especially through Gray Street, it's always been a problem through there as far as it being a thoroughfare for commerce, going to the packing plant, going to different locations. And people do speed through there, and when I was chief, we tried to work the very, very best we could as far as mitigating that through speed enforcement and different things. There are some other traffic softening ideas that you can put into place. Someone's mentioned speed bumps before. Speed bumps, I think, would cause an unnecessary traffic jam through there, but at the same time, I think through enforcement and also through working with the developer when the new development comes in as far as design is concerned, and taking public input as to what they deem to be the problem to be, I think we can come to some type of reasonable solution. Thank you.
Stick on the topic of growth and development. Next question, Mallory Scott Housing Development. Good decision by the current council, bad decision by the current council? Why or why not? Ms. Butler.
I've heard a lot of discussion about Mallory Scott subdivision, and I did vote in favor of it. I also went back to look at the history of it. Mallory Scott portion of it was actually approved back in 2005 as a subdivision. And then the developer purchased the Scott Farm, and that was annexed in from the county, hence the new approval of the subdivision. And the reason that I voted for it is because the developer shared with us that he was going to have affordable housing, workforce housing, not Section 8 housing, and I feel that that's a component that's missing in our community. And when I say affordable housing, I'm talking about young families, first-time home buyers, teachers, police officers. The medium house now in Smithfield or Isle of Wight is actually $300,000, and I like to see all citizens in the county or the town of Smithfield prosper, and I feel that home ownership could actually do that.
Mr. Hall, you oppose that project? Do you stand by that vote, or would you change your mind?
I've heard had two people text me they can't hear you, so can you hold the microphone closer?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I voted against it. I did, and the reason I voted against it is I looked through the pamphlet and I had 3 meetings with the developer, John Napolitano. Very nice guy, got a good level head. However, the sewer and water line up across to Wilson Road down to the station, to the pump station, is going to cost the town somewhere around $3.5 million. Nowhere in his profits did he indicate that he would pay for that upgrade, which would be needed for his development. He indicated to me that he had stated that he would address it when it comes up. That's all well and good. But addressing it one way is one thing, but committing to doing it to save the citizens of the town money is why I voted against it. And I did research with him place in Virginia Beach, and a lot of the residents over there were very positive about his response to their questions and concerns. So he's a good guy, but until he commits to it, then I'm going to stand by my decision. Thank you.
Mayor, you supported Mallory Scott. Did you make the right decision?
I certainly do think I did. You look at some neighboring developments around here, and you ride by there, and every single one of those houses look exactly alike. I mean, all of them are exactly the same way. And that developer was chomping at the bits to come in here and develop that on this property, and he would have bought that property in a heartbeat. What they're doing on these other developments is building about 10 to 15 houses, getting permits and land grants, and building 10 to 15 houses at the same time. They don't have to go to a public hearing. The public hasn't got to look at it. You look back quite a few years ago, Marta Hoffler was going to build Ben's Grant, and they presented the whole development to the county, and everybody went wild, such as they did with Mallory Point. And so they finally, it just got really bad, and they just finally said, the heck with it, they pulled out. This developer is putting in one heck of a lot of infrastructure. Not saying what Wayne said is right or wrong, they're doing all of the upgrades on the water and sewer. Plus they're having, I think, 3 homeowners associations in there. They have the swimming pools, walking trails, playgrounds. They're doing it upright. It's going to be really nice, and I agree with Ms. Butler that the affordable housing is needed, and they're going to do something with that. Thank you very much.
Steve Bowman.
Thank you, sir. I think the decision may have been right, but the timing was wrong. If the decision had been made or had been deferred until a later date. I think it would probably be more appropriate. I've talked to people as I've campaigned about development. I use two terms: compatibility and capacity. Compatibility meaning compatible with the adjoining property owners and also compatible with the comprehensive plan. But more importantly, we're talking about almost the same thing that we were talking about in the previous question, and that is capacity. To go and start right off the bat without having the infrastructure as far as roads are concerned, as bad as that intersection is at Battery Park and Nike Park is at the present time, the plan allowed for 125 homes to be built in 2022. I don't think a single one's going to be built in 2022, and then 100 thereafter. My concern was they were going to stack the permits and allow 225 the first year without any road improvements whatsoever. So I think,
Calvin? Lost the mic.
I think quite honestly that we really need to look at the infrastructure in place before we start deciding as far as increased developments are concerned, and make sure that we don't overly burden the citizens that have been here in the town of Smithfield for many, many years to the benefit of the developers. Thank you.
Mr. Brooks.
Yeah, thank you. Unfortunately, I came to town at the tail end of when this decision was already made. I have gone back, I have researched what was done, but I'm not going to mix words here. I would have never voted for that development for the sole reason being we really don't, in my opinion, have a master plan of how we're going to handle all of that growth. And I realize it's going to be built in phases and stages, and we've got road developments, we have waterways, so I realize all that. But when you take a development like that, it's absolutely going to change the face of what this town looks like. Single-handedly, it's going to change the face of it. And just for that reason alone, I would not have voted for it. May not be a popular opinion, I don't know, but if you want to know what my stance is, I would have never voted for it. Thank you.
Okay, next question, Mr. Hall, you will go first on this question. Citizen says they hear a lot of talk about so-called smart growth, controlled growth, words like that. They want to know how it's falling apart. Y'all hear me now? How do you define healthy growth?
And we can continue to grow at a pace that's in line with what we want to continue doing without being overcrowded too soon.
Mayor?
Healthy growth. Yeah, that's a tricky word to me, healthy growth. I think everything that we do around this town is healthy and healthy growth. I like the attitude about everybody in this town and waving and speaking. I run in the park every day, and everybody that's in there speaks to everybody that goes by. And when we have races and stuff in town, everybody is talking and speaking to each other. So that's healthy. So in the growth that comes in this town, we don't want people coming into town and being not healthy or not speaking to people and not having a good attitude about this friendly town. I think one time we were up in the top 10 of being one of the friendliest towns in the United States, or maybe the East Coast or something. But I think that's healthy growth, and I guess that's the question that you're asking. So that's it. Thank you.
Mr. Bowman, how do you define healthy growth?
Well, Steve, I go back to the statement I made previously about capacity and compatibility. Compatibility, once again, with the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan, although it's not a law, it is supposed to be a living, breathing document. But but it's not a document that gets and runs off every time it's convenient. I think we should adhere to the comprehensive plan. It gives the citizens an opportunity and a reasonable expectation of what's coming down the pipe as far as development is concerned. So I think adherence to the comprehensive plan is extremely important. Capacity is extremely important as well, because I certainly don't want a scenario where we have developers that come in and we put in, like we're talking about now, 125 houses and another 100 for the next 7 years, without consideration of how it's going to tax our public services, our fire, police, rescue, things like that you, the citizen, as taxpayers, will ultimately have to subsidize. So, to me, healthy growth should be growth that is in concert with the comprehensive plan, that we engage our citizens and ask them what they believe is appropriate, what's not appropriate, and at the same time ensure that, as again, the developers do not overly burden our established taxpayers and our established taxpayers.
Yeah, the comprehensive plan's been brought up, I think, by every candidate up here, and I want to say that was looked at quite extensively over the past probably year, and I think that the Planning Commission did a wonderful job. They put a lot of time and a lot of effort into creating this document, and that is a master plan. That's a platform for where are we going to go from here. I like to have master plans. I don't like piecemealing things. You know, we'll do something over here. Well, once you do something over here, that's set. You're not going to go back and you're not going to change it. So I like the fact that we have that. However, when we see a potential development that would possibly tax capacity issues that may be in compliance with the comprehensive plan, we need to look at that. So what I'm saying is, even though it may be allowed, there are other factors that really have to play in, like the police department, fire department, the schools, the roads, etc. And it's not all about just getting that additional tax base in here. It's it really does need to be managed, and I hope I answered the question. Thank you.
Ms. Butler, your definition of healthy growth.
I guess all the candidates covered the definition of healthy growth, but I do concur. We just finished a comprehensive plan, and the comprehensive plan was input by the citizens as well as the Planning Commission finalizing that along with the consultants. But I also think that what we've put in place thus far, we have used the comprehensive plan as a guide or a map to actually follow. One of the things that this developer is doing, we talk about this Mallory Farm subdivision, he's done his due diligence as far as inquiring about safety, the school systems, emergency, police officers, and our responses to him were positive. So does the developer not know what he's doing, or do we not know what we're doing when our departments give a positive response? I definitely think that with the growth that's ahead of us, that we need to have some type of strategic planning in place to make sure that we do follow the current and future land use maps.
I got about 6 questions about the Grange at 10 Main and the farmers market. Top of mind, right? It's in the news currently, so I'm going to try to cover as many angles on it as I can. We're going to start with Mayor. You'll go first this time. Would you be open to alternative? Let's assume that the lease on the current farmers market space is not renewed, as most seem to be suggesting it won't be. Would you be open to an alternative spending $1.4 million to put it at the Grange, and at least explore other possibilities for the farmers market? Yes or no, and why?
Yes. Where else are you going to put it? We had this problem 4 years ago, next March 23. when we met with the bank, and they weren't going to renew our lease then, so we went around town, the director of tourism and the town manager and myself, and went around town to try to find somewhere else to put the farmer's market, and we couldn't. So we worked out a deal with the bank for 5 more years, which is up March of '23. So there's really nowhere else to put it. I've talked to some of the merchants on the main street, says it's a good idea to move it down there. Some said they don't want to move it down there. Most of the people in the farmer's market would like to see it moved down there. It's been things about shuffling people back and forth with go-karts. Golf carts. This is just something that is a preliminary. It's not done. The town has not received anything at all from the developer, other than they did have one showing up here one time about what they were looking at. So yeah, I don't know where else we're going to put it. If we don't put it there, the land is going to be given to the town. The county's going to be on board. The town's going to be on board. We need a farmer's market somewhere.
Mr. Bowman, are you open to alternatives to spending significant money to put a new farmer's market at the Grange to me?
Steve, I'm always open to any alternative, especially one that saves taxpayers money. I think this question also almost goes back to the question that came about conserving the historic area when the streets don't get any wider and it's narrow, and the lack of available area to put it in. I'm not sure what an alternative would be other than in that location if you're looking to keep the downtown flavor in mind. In other words, keep it viable, keep it up and running. And I talked to a number of vendors and talked to the folks downtown as well that really look forward to having the farmers market as an attraction to bolster their sales and things like that. So to just up and decide, well, as an alternative, we're going to put it out somewhere in the middle of Windsor Castle, we're going to do it somewhere else, it takes away from the flavor of downtown and what goes on downtown on a Saturday. I'm not sure it's a viable way of doing things, but I'm always open for anything that would save the taxpayers dollars. And $1.4 million is a lot of money. Thank you.
Yeah, excuse me. This is a hot topic right now, and my stance on it is pretty clear. I am not opposed to the farmers market moving down there. What I'm opposed to is using taxpayer money to fund a private development. Are there alternatives? I'm sure that there are. You look at Williamsburg, they closed their streets down. I don't know if closing Main Street would be an option or not. Probably not, because it's a high traffic, car traffic area. I don't know if the developer would let us put at the location of where Little Supermarket used to be temporarily. But I will say this, if the lease is up in March, this building, regardless of where it goes, is not to be done anytime soon. There's still no plan for that development. Certainly it's got to be constructed. It's got to have utilities put in. So we're talking years out. So the fact that the bank may not renew the lease, we better have a plan for that immediately. Not hinge a decision based on whether the town is going to spend money. And this is the first I've heard that the county is open to help fund this. This is the first I've heard of it. I don't know. I would like to look into that. But as far as my opinion on moving the farmers market, no, I'm not opposed to it. I'm opposed to using taxpayer money for it. Thank you.
It is a hot topic. I guess Mayor Williams answered the question. Relocating the farmers market is some of the discussion that we had. I also, like Steve did, I have been spending a lot of time at the farmers market and actually surveyed the vendors out there, and they seem to be very excited about relocating the farmers market to this new project. We say $1.4 million. However, in some discussions that we've had, we voted up to $1.4 million, and the county voted to have a task force, of which we were a part of, And the last preliminary report that we had from the task force, you know, they've made some changes to the building, as well as, instead of leasing the two ends to a restaurant and a couple of commercial businesses, you know, we talked about them possibly buying their buildings. And if that's the case, then the dollar amount is not gonna be 1.4. Jeff said he was not aware of the county coming on board, but at their last Board of Supervisors meeting, the county is on board to contribute up to $1.4 million as well.
Mr. Hall, you opened the alternative sites.
Yes, I am open to moving the farmer's market to that particular location. Having said that, there are certain things that need to come to fruition for that to happen. We've got to make sure that the traffic is controlled properly to where it don't hinder the people down in that area, in the historic district on Cary Street, and that sort of area. But I think it's a great idea. It is a win-win for the town and the county and the citizens based on the financial planning that has been done about the return on the investment. And having all that information, then I would agree that that is the right place to do it.
Next question, Mr. Bowman, you will go first on this one. With the approval up to $1.4 million for the farmers market and up to $1.4 million for improvement expansion at the Luter Sports Complex, any concern that the town's getting beyond its means of paying for these obligations without a tax increase? And if not, would you support a tax increase to help pay for those two projects specifically?
Steve, that's a very good question. We have been blessed in Smithfield by a benefactor that has provided amenities to town that have greatly enhanced the quality of life as far as our citizens are concerned. However, if you look at the Parks and Recreation budget, you can notice that it's burgeoned over the last 3 or 4 years. I think it's gone up almost 300%. So with every decision that's made to accept improvements, expansions, things like that, come with the requirement that we are, not to use the term loosely, but on the hook to ensure that we provide tax dollars to upkeep as far as these things are concerned. I don't like tax increases. I think at the present time, and looking at the budget, our budget's a sound budget, but you know, these are difficult times for everyone. The economy's in bad shape. Everyone, those on fixed incomes especially. At the present time, unless it's especially necessary, I'm not in favor of tax increase to provide upkeep for things like that. Maybe there's an alternative, or user fees or things like that can be increased, but at the present time, I'm not in favor of increasing taxes. Thank you.
No, I'm not in favor of tax increase to fund these projects whatsoever. I also don't like the fact that both of these projects were just recently decided without a whole lot of public input. I understand the need to have closed-door sessions in any kind of organization, whether it's public or private. I understand that completely. But we're talking about $2.4 to $3 million somewhere in that neighborhood on two projects that to the citizens that just came out of the blue. I don't think that a decision like that would warrant a tax increase on people that just didn't have any input on it. That's my opinion. And do I think that they're good projects? I think Parks and Rec and Farmers Markets, I love all those ideas. I really do. But if we didn't do our homework and look at a balance sheet or a P&L, return on investment on how we're going to fund these things, then you know, it's like a build it and they will come. Well, we still got to pay for it. And I'm vehemently opposed for a tax increase specifically on these two projects. Nobody likes tax increases, but I just don't like the fact that that's being tied to these projects. Thank you.
For the benefit of the audience and the candidates, let me repeat this question. With the town's approval of up to $1.4 million for farmers market and up to $1.4 million for the Luter Sports Complex expansion, is the town's budget sustainable without tax increases? And if not, would you support tax increases to fund those two projects?
Somebody said something about timing. I think Steve said something about timing with the Mallory Scott Farm subdivision. I thought that the timing of these two articles coming out prior to the night was bad timing. I think where the farmers market is concerned, I don't think that there will be a need for increasing taxes. And personally, I really think that the town's commitment up to 1.4 is actually going to be less than that. I mean, the conversation is centered around with the businesses purchasing their spaces in the farmers market and then having a 2% camp fee for the maintenance as well as paying for the full-time staff that we needed there will take care of itself. Now, where the Luter Sportsplex is concerned, I saw the headlines in the Times, but the actual article itself, I'm more concerned about what happens at the Luter Sportsplex. So based on the article in the Times, I don't agree with what was said was going to be built. And some contacts that we've already had, we're looking for some commercial donations which will defray that $1 million expense.
Mr. Hall.
I'll do my best.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yes,
As far as raising taxes, I do not see that needs to happen for these projects to go forward. I think the bottom line is two different areas. The farmers market, that's a ways down the road. Based on the financial reports that I've been getting, not only from the town of Smithfield, but from the county, I think that will not necessarily cause a tax increase. And the money is going to be well under the 1.4 that they have committed to. As far as the Luter Sports project, that needs to happen, but it's still up in the air as to what's going to be built at the Luter Sports project. And until that's decided, I really believe that the town is financially able to handle what comes up over the next year, year and a half. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Yes, no, we don't have to raise taxes. We said these would be paid for very easily. Sports complex, once that's built, one thing about the sports complex, already over there we need parking dramatically. We need parking really bad. We need restrooms over there, also for the football field and the proposed new baseball fields. So once you get the new baseball fields built, if they're ever going to be built, and how long it's going to take, who knows, the revenue coming off of them for lodge and meals tax and sales tax is going to be huge. I just see where over a long period of time, don't get me wrong, that's going to be sustainable and being paid back to the town. And again, with the farmers market, no, we don't have to raise taxes for the farmers market. Ellen Mingo said we can handle all of this, and I put my faith in her. She's the treasurer. But we have to have a farmers market somewhere. I don't know what else we can do. If somebody has any ideas, please see me and talk to me about what we can do about a farmers market, where else we can put it, and we don't have to put it there. Give me an idea. I'd love to talk to you. Thank you.
Very good. We can start with Mr. Brooks, I think, on this question that relates to the Grange at 10 Main. The town council is going to have to make some zoning decisions, additional use permit decisions likely on this project in the months ahead. What will be your process for vetting that project and ultimately making what will likely be a controversial decision, right, on that project number one? And I'm going to tag onto this. Another citizen wants to know, have you personally seen plans for this project? And if so, do you have a reaction to what you've seen in the plans for the project? So, a lot to do there in 90 seconds.
Yeah, the second question was exactly how I was going to start my comment. I've heard this from town staff before, and it is, we've never seen a plan. We don't have anything in writing. There is nothing has been presented. So if we're talking about, yes, having to change ordinances and plans about that, we have to start somewhere. I have not seen anything. I don't know if anybody else has seen anything. But until we see what they would like to do, you know, where's the hotel going? Where are the restaurants going? Where are the single-family homes going? Where are the restaurants going? We really can't make any of these decisions because we don't know what we're dealing with. So I think until something is finally at least submitted initially that the citizens can look at and start discussing what it is that's being proposed, we really can't address the other questions, and that's just the fact of the matter. Thank you.
Ms. Butler, what will be your process for vetting the Grange at 10 Main project, and have you seen any plans for it?
For vetting the project, Jeff is a newcomer. I currently sit on town council, and nor have I seen any plans for the new project either. So until we actually see the plans, you know, we don't know how it's going to fit in with our zoning ordinance. There was some confusion when we amended our zoning ordinance. It appeared that every time this amendment would come up, it would come up in relationship to the project. And, you know, my concern was we shouldn't link the two together because one has nothing to do with the other. The amendment to the zoning ordinance actually came to us as a recommendation from the consultants who upgraded the comprehensive plan, and that was for the future of South Church Street. It had nothing to do with the Luda project. So nor have I seen any plans for the project either.
Mr. Hall.
I will concur with Ms. Butler. I too have not seen any plans. I've seen some sketches, drawings, but no defined plan of what's going on in that area. And until I do, I can't make a decision. I can't comment one way or the other. If it needs to be a special use permit, that would go to the planning commission. And then that would come to us. But until then, I can't make any positive comment one way or the other. Thank you.
Mayor Williams.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I have seen some preliminary plans. They had them up here in this other room over here one time when Joe Luda IV brought them up here and showed them to the county was here and the town, some of the town officials were here, and quite a few citizens. And that was the first time that I had seen anything, and they were proposing what they were looking at doing with that area. And from what I can understand, it's been changed so many times, it's unbelievable. So I don't know where it is right now, but they have changed. I think they've changed at least twice the planning directors or whoever's drawing all of this whole range thing out. So I heard that they'll probably have something that everybody can see by the first of the year. Until then, we haven't seen a thing. Nothing's been presented to the town at all. So there we go. What was the other question?
Had you seen the plans? I think you covered it. Mr. Bowman, how will you vet the Grady 10 Main project as you make decisions on zoning, number one, and have you seen plans?
Well, no, I haven't seen plans. I wish I had so that I could talk educatedly about the specific question. So to go into the specific details as how I would vet this specific project would not be appropriate. I would be talking from an uninformed perspective, and I don't like to do that. However, as far as vetting is concerned, regardless of whether it is this project or whether it's any other project as far as development is concerned, there should be a sense of consistency. There should be consistency that goes back, once again, to capacity, compatibility, and adherence to the comprehensive plan. So, again, Mr. Stewart, unless I see plans as far as this is concerned, it would be inappropriate for me to comment on how I would vet, other than from a consistency perspective, like I would any other development that would come before me if I was on town council. Thank you.
Ms. Butler, are there any circumstances in which you would approve a building over 35 feet tall on that property? Any circumstance?
That's difficult to answer, Steve. Anything above 3 stories would actually exceed the current zoning ordinance, and there would have to be a special use permit for that. For me to even consider that at all, I would need to see a copy of the plans and know the placement of where the buildings are going to be in that particular project before I could commit to that.
Mr. Hall, any circumstances in which you would agree to something taller than 35 feet?
Until I can see the reason why we're building something that high, which is in opposition to the current zoning ordinance, that may need a special use permit, I would have to know more information other than why it's 35 feet high.
Mayor.
Thank you. When they had the preliminary drawings over here on the other side, they showed some, I think it was 2 motels over there that were over 35 foot tall. And they were told then that that wouldn't go in this town, and I don't think it will. I don't think it'll get past the planning commission, anything over that height. There have been structures in this town that's come before the planning commission and even to the council that was over that height, and they never passed. So I doubt that this will pass either. And no, I'm not in favor of it.
Mr. Bowman, any circumstances that you would be okay with more than 35 feet?
Steve, through my life, I've learned a long time ago to never say never on anything. However, not having seen any plans, which I wish I could have seen them, maybe if they're out there, the public could see them so that they could educatedly or more educatedly weigh in on this matter. Again, I don't know of anything right off the bat. That being said, I'd like to go a little bit one step further. We owe it to the citizens, especially those in the neighborhood, the historical district, Gray Street. That's an entrance corridor to the town of Smithfield. And I specifically believe that entrance corridors into towns should be appealing, they should look inviting, and they should be a reflection of what you're going to see to the rest of the town. So I hope that whenever these plans come out, that that's taken into consideration in the formulation of the final plan. Thank you.
No, I would not allow anything over 35 feet on that property. Any developer has to play by the rules of the rule book, and we clearly state that it's 35 feet. Yes, they can apply for exceptions to that. However, that is the corridor to Gray Street. It's not just because I live on Gray Street, but it is a main corridor for the historic district, which is really, it's kind of like the heartbeat, the charm of this little town. And I think that should be preserved. And the initial, the initial height was going to be upwards of 60 feet. Then we were told that that was a clerical error, that it was not going to be 60 feet, and it would be something less, however, still above 35 feet. But I'm not going to mix words here. I do not support anything over 35 feet on that property. Thank you.
Several citizens want to know, if elected, will you bring back curbside recycling? Mr. Hall.
I would love to see curbside recycling come back, but historically, the way it's going now, recycling is on its way out. So I don't see it happening anytime soon.
There's nobody in here that recycled more than I did. I carried a 25-gallon bucket in the back of my truck and in the parking lots and everywhere else. I pick up recycling, and I was just devastated when we had to give it up. But when we found out that all the recycling in this town was being picked up and carried to an incinerator and being burned, then by golly, we were paying $125,000 a year to have it hauled away as trash and burned, for goodness sakes. So, and the reason was China cut off us, the United States, from, and they weren't accepting any more recyclables. But I have been to some recycling meetings. There are a few counties and towns and cities around Virginia that is doing some types of recycling, and I've talked to a couple of council members, and I'm going to talk to the town manager. There's something we can put glass in and chop it up and use it on trails and things like that. So we have to go outside of the box and start looking at other ways to recycle, and I'm all for it. I'd do anything in this world to get back to recycling and picking up trash off the streets and the parking lots and wherever else it is. Thank you.
Mr. Bowman, will you vote to bring back curbside recycling?
Well, a point of clarification, the mayor may recycle a lot, but my wife that's in the audience is probably right close with her and really holds that near and dear to her heart and has kind of parsed things down as the availability to recycle has occurred. I would love to see recycling. I've spent a better part of my life working to improve the environment as Commissioner of Marine Resources. So those things that improve the environment are certainly near and dear to my heart. Unfortunately, to echo what some of the other panelists have said, we're in a time frame now that recycling is not a viable option. Thinking out of the box is a wonderful thing, recycling rubber and things like that to use on various surfaces and stuff like that works well, but at the present time, unless someone can show me that we do have available place to recycle other than just taking our recyclables from Smithfield and sending them somewhere else where they're not going to be recycled or they're going to cause more pollution and more discontent to the environment. At the present time, I don't see it happening. Now, if that were to change, I'd be the first one on board to certainly support recycling coming back to the town of Smithfield. Thank you.
I totally agree with you, Steve. I was a very big recycler. In fact, I still recycle. The big blue container-looking thing outside the VFW. Now, where that stuff goes, I don't know. But you're right. If we recycle as curbside recycling, and all of a sudden it's going into incinerators or going to landfills, well, we got duped. And you're right. There is no market for recycling. My company at the beach, we go through hundreds of thousands of boxes, big boxes, a year. We have a baler, and we used to make money on that, selling it to the recyclers. It got to a point where we had to pay them to pick it up. So that tells you what the market is doing. And you're right, China is not buying our recyclables these days. Now, where do we go from here? I have contacted 2 private companies. In fact, there's a petition if people want recycling at their house. There's a company based in Chesapeake who can sign a petition. If they get at least 200 customers in the town, then they can start providing that. And I'm willing to pay for it. However, I would like to know where that stuff is going because I don't want it to end up in a landfill or going to an incinerator. So, thank you.
I concur with all the responses. That was a tough decision for us to make, to discontinue recycling. But to have the recycling materials to go to incineration was the deciding factor of why we did away with recycling. So unless things change, then recycling is probably done with in the town of Smithfield. So as time goes on and the recycling, business changes, then we probably won't have curbside service.
Mayor, I think we start with you on this one. A citizen writes that the sidewalks on Gray Street are crumbling. The road has potholes. When will this problem be fixed? It's dangerous.
Late May of '23 is the road. They have to dig it up 18 inches down and replace 18 inches of the road. That's why we went in there. VDOT made the town hurry up and replace the water lines and the sewer lines, which were over 100 years old, and even the laterals to the house, because they wanted to get in there and pave it. As soon as we hurried up and got it done, at the tune of about $1.2 million, and as soon as we got it done, they put it off for a year, and then they put it off for another year. So it's going to be May of '23 before they get back. I think that's what they said. It's going to be '23 anyway. The sidewalks, we tried to talk to them into doing, tried to talk to them about doing something with the sidewalks. We're still talking to them. While they're there, they can do the sidewalks at the same time. They haven't said no, they certainly haven't said yes. But that's the way VDOT is. They just listen to you and say, we'll check into it, we'll get back with you, and they don't, period. So we are well aware. And to tell you something else, we even talked to Dominion Power and got prices on lowering the lines from up overhead and putting them underground while we're doing the street. You don't even want to know what Dominion Power is going to charge us for that. The world hasn't got that much money. So we are looking at Gray Street. It's a beautiful street. Everybody there keeps the houses up really, really good, and we're proud of it. Thank you.
Mr. Bowman, your commitment to replacing sidewalks and fixing potholes on Gray Street.
Well, I can tell you this, going back from a law enforcement perspective, if you start letting the infrastructure start to debilitate, it's not all cataclysmic type effect, almost like a domino effect. It's just like broken windows. You fix a broken window as soon as you can, or you end up with a neighborhood that's not fit to be in. But I believe very strongly in infrastructure. We're talking about other amenities and things. I have a saying that you don't put a swimming pool in your backyard if the foundation of the house is crumbling. So I think we need to pay a very, very close attention to our infrastructure. As far as Gray Street is concerned, the sidewalks, I have already started in one specific location that may be in close proximity to Mr. Brooks, but I was out campaigning. I ran across a lady that said when the town put in a water meter, it caused a disruption to her sidewalk. And I contacted Public Works, got a phone call later, and said we're going to be over there to check it this afternoon. And they wouldn't check it the next day, and I got another phone call that said we're going to be repairing that water meter so that this lady that lives on Gray Street will not trip and step over the water meter and maybe fall. That's the way I do business. I keep my finger on the pulse, and I try to get things done in any manner I possibly can, and thank the Public Works for the town of Smithfield for taking care of that for me. Thank you.
Mr. Brooks.
Yeah, and my neighbor thanks you quite a bit. That water meter was repaired the following day, so I appreciate you doing that for her. The sidewalks are in horrible shape, and I think we have almost all of Gray Street here in the audience today, and they're dangerous. They're in horrible shape. They're dangerous. Some of them are 4 or 5 inches above grade. Some are just totally disintegrated to the point where you're seeing like dust and rocks. There is no concrete basically left. It needs to get done, and I do realize that we are slated for the road repaving, which probably should have been done years ago for next May. That's a good start, but I did not hear where the sidewalks are going to be addressed. And the squeaky wheel, Gray Street, gets the oil, and if we can stay on top of this, I would encourage us all to do that. In the interim, I have not complained to the town. Am I done? Oh, okay. I've not complained to the town. I do know many of my neighbors have, but it's something that does need to get addressed. It's a public safety issue. Thank you. Bye.
I think Mayor Williams addressed the street as far as VDOT having that on their schedule for 2023. I'd like to ask the question, Mayor Williams, I know you said that you'd also spoke with VDOT about the sidewalks too. They have not committed to that?
No.
Um,
They would get back with us twice, we talked to them about it.
I'm not sure if the sidewalks are VDOT's responsibility. Is it? It is? Okay. I was wondering about putting the cart before the horse. Do they have to be done at the same time, or what do we do? Then I think that that's something that maybe the town needs to pursue a little bit more aggressively, especially where the sidewalks are concerned, as being a safety issue.
Mr. Hall, Race Street.
I've heard several people talking to me about the sidewalks and the street itself. I understand completely their concern, and I agree with them. They are unsafe and inadequate. But at the same time, it's controlled by VDOT, and we are at their mercy. Like Ms. Butler said, and I agree, I think we need to be a little more aggressive, not only with VDOT, but other ways of looking to where we can help these citizens get their sidewalks repaired. Certainly the sidewalks. And that's what I plan on doing going forward.
Next question, Mr. Bowman. First, citizen wants to know, will you bring Smithfield into the 21st century and start live streaming town council meetings on the internet?
That also is obvious, yes. When I was Commissioner at Marine Resources Commission, we've been live streaming all of our meetings for the better part of probably 4 years. I think it's very important. It's not just the fact of live streaming like we have tonight, but the rationale and the reason behind live streaming is so very important. We have so many people that don't have the capability of getting out, getting to the meetings. The timing may not be appropriate. Also, if you record the meetings, they can see those as well. So what it is, it provides an additional tool to the public that we serve to be able to hold us accountable as public servants, to see what we're doing. So the answer is yes. Matter of fact, I spoke with Amy Novak a little bit about the configuration of council chambers. Those council chambers are serving a very useful purpose, but at the same time, the design is really not of the best benefit to those that come to meetings. The monitors, there's no monitors there that the public can see very clearly as far as exhibits are concerned, and a number of other different things as far as acoustics. So not just only live streaming, but if I'm elected, I would be pushing to an improved council chamber to make things more amenable to the public that are coming to watch the meetings, and not just the council that are sitting there making decisions. Thank you.
100%. That's part of my campaign is live streaming of these meetings. Up until I guess 2 days ago, we didn't have anything that enabled us to live stream, and with the help of a couple of citizens, we have this forum, and lo and behold, we have live streaming on the town's YouTube channel now, which I appreciate you doing that. You're right, Steve. There are a lot of people that physically can't make the meetings, whether it's because of physical ailments, because if they're working, if they're working parents, they've got to take care of their children. At least they can put that on and they can see what's going on. And the people that want to be engaged can be engaged. They can hear what's happening. They can hear how we, or how town council, how involved they are, what their participation is. And I firmly believe in that. And I think it's about time. And why it took us this long, I don't know. But hey, we have it, and now we have the platform, so there's no reason why we can't do this from now on. Thank you.
I concur 100%. One of the questions that the Times asked us was any changes in our town governance. I couldn't really think of any changes, but more so enhancements. And live streaming was one of the things that I did mention. And, you know, it's come up in some of the town council meetings. You know, we've just never have taken the initiative. So I'm hoping that tonight, with the live streaming, that going forward, we will be live streaming our meetings and work sessions. I think we owe it to the citizens to make either attending the meetings or being engaged with our meetings as convenient as possible.
Mr. Hall, live streaming council meetings.
I think it's absolutely a great idea, and we should have thought of it earlier than now. There's a lot of people that cannot attend the meetings for various reasons, but I think live streaming will permit them to even tape it so they can see it at a later date and not necessarily come to the council meeting. I think it's a great idea, and I, for one, agree that we need to move forward with this and make this a happy event.
Mayor Williams.
Yes, we have very few people come to our council meetings. Now, I would be really interested, and I'd like a phone call, we can find out how many people are watching this live streaming tonight on YouTube, if that's what it's going on. So 20 right now. So we have hardly ever had 20 people up at the council meeting, regular council meetings. But yes, absolutely. I think it's great. I think it'll work good, and the people get more involved, and maybe it'll enhance more people to run for the town council when we have these elections. Thank you.
Next question, Mr. Brooks, you go first. Should the mayor be directly picked by the voters of the town rather than by council members?
That's a question I have not pondered. In all of the places I've lived, the mayor is elected by the public versus being appointed by the council. So when I moved to Smithfield, it kind of threw me off. And I even have friends that don't even live in Virginia, question me about that. I said, well, this is the way the town governance is set up, and this is how it is. I'm at a loss for words because I really don't know how to answer that question. I'm going to pass that.
Ms. Butler, should the mayor be directly elected by the people?
Jeff, I can understand. I still have mixed reviews about it. It's really interesting. Attended VML conference maybe a month or 2 months ago, and it's always nice to network with other people from different regions. But the majority of the people that I did come in contact with, their mayor is elected. And someone made the comment to me that they felt that that was the best way to choose the mayor because the mayor would be accountable to the people that elected him. In our position, the town council actually elects the mayor, and the mayor voting rights are basically the same as ours. One of my friends who serves on the town council, she feels like the council electing the mayor is most productive because the colleagues know the experience of the people that they work with. In this political environment that we're in now, I'm not real sure which way is the best way. So I have mixed reviews about it.
Mr. Hall.
I understand the mixed reviews that people share. However, in a small community, I think it's pretty real common that the council members select the mayor. his vote is the same as ours. We have 7 people, and he can be a tiebreaker. But I think it's serving this community well that we, as council members, select the mayor.
In 1993, I think it was, we went through this very question, and it didn't make it. So the majority of the town, I think we put out something for people to respond to it, and most of the people said that they would rather see the council pick the mayor rather than have a separate running for the mayor. Because if the mayor loses that seat and doesn't get that, he's not on the town council anyway. So most people would like to run for the town council. But I like the idea of the council picking the person that they want to preside over the meetings. I like that idea. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to be odd man out. I believe that the people should be electing the mayor, and the reason I believe that people should be electing the mayor because the mayor is normally the face of the town of Smithfield. The more input, the more selectivity that the people have as far as making that decision, I think is more appropriate in a democratic society. That being said, that is not in any way any negative influence for what we have now. Bottom line is, I believe that that the mayor should be elected by the people. It should be their choice as far as who is the face and leader of the town. Thank you.
Ms. Butler, citizen rights. I just moved here 4 years ago. I love my neighbors, business owners are friendly, but I must say the citizens as a whole do not seem very friendly. How will you, as a councilwoman, work to bring a greater sense of community to Smithfield?
I'm the hostess with the mostest. I will tell you, that's a tough question. I walk pretty frequently at Windsor Castle Park, and I'm always meeting people, people from the community, people out of state, and everybody seems to be friendly. I don't know, maybe we can have some type of activity. One of the things on my what's important is community pride and inclusion. And maybe we can offer, have some type of festivities where we can invite the community for people to get to know each other. Or if you're in a subdivision that maybe you can have a covered dish dinner. I have a friend that lives in Harborview, and on her particular street, once a month, the community gets together where they have a covered dish meal. And that's one way where neighbors can meet neighbors. But I personally have not found that here in Smithfield. Whoever wrote that question, see me afterwards. Thank you.
The question is, how could you, as council person, create a greater sense of community and make people feel more welcome in Smithfield?
As Valerie alluded to, I'd like to know that person and meet them, because I spend a lot of time at Windsor Castle Park and other places. I have found the citizens here to be very friendly. Again, getting communities together, getting the people in the community together to have get-togethers or neighborhood parties or whatever is a good way of doing it, and I would certainly encourage that. I do know that there are a lot of communities that do in fact have community events, but maybe we need to be a little more aggressive in getting that done out in the community. Thank you.
I disagree with the question. I think this is one of the friendliest towns that I know of. We have all kinds of events here in the town. The farmers market, the Windsor Castle, three tours they have over there with all of the people getting together and volunteers. This town has more volunteers and more volunteer hours than anywhere else, and I'll put them up against that. I'm a member of the VFW, and we put all our volunteer hours down to send to the state, and you'll be surprised how many volunteer hours to just us and that one little organization gives back to this community. In the VA events, look how many volunteers, and everybody over there is always friendly. They get to know each other. They're out, and if you don't think it's friendly, get out there with the people and get friendly with them. Make them be friendly out here, because this is a friendly town. I go back to this thing I said a while ago. I think we've got some kind of a point on that, one of the friendliest towns. I know we had one of the prettiest towns and one of the cleanest towns. I think we had a friendliest town in there too some time ago, but I don't see that. I think everybody here is friendly. Thank you very much.
Mr. Bowman.
Well, Steve, I can recall December 1st of 1982 when I first came here, the first day that I was a police officer, chief of police, put me in the car with him and he said, we're going to ride around town. We started toward Farmer Service or Ace Hardware out on the southern end of town, and we stopped and I met with the business people and talked with them. And I met some friends that day that are friends to this very day. One of them is sitting at the very end of the table that I met the first day that I was here, and we've remained friends ever since. I too think a lot of that question is an artifact of how the person responds and reacts to other people in the interaction as well. It could be a sign of the times where people don't seem to be as friendly as they used to be back in the old days, or I think a lot has to do with the individual personality of the individual. Again, I think we do a lot around Smithfield as far as, looking out and helping and volunteering and everything. The mayor mentioned the VFW. I'm a member of the Kiwanis. We work with different things, Santa breakfast and Christmas store, and trying to work with folks and lend a helping hand. So I've never found Smithfield to be an uninviting place, quite honestly. Thank you.
Mr. Brooks, you said you're a relative newcomer yourself, so you should have a good perspective on this.
I've got a great perspective of this. I think it's the friendliest town I've ever seen, and that's why I decided to move here. I said earlier, I had options. I could have gone anywhere, but I chose this town. In fact, prior to me buying my house here, I lived above the Florist on Main Street for a couple of months to decide if this is the town I wanted to be in. And after 2 months, I said, this is the town I want to be in. Everybody was so friendly. Everybody. And there are so many things to do around here. Like Steve, I belong to the Rotary Club. I volunteer time at the special needs thrift shop on Main. So I'm pretty active in the community, but that's me. That's what I like to do. And we look around at all the events that we have, and you're right. Windsor Castle tours, Ivy Hill Cemetery tours. If there is something out there, and participation is a two-way street. If you just want to sit in your house and not do a whole lot, well, you're not going to get a whole lot out of it. If you want to be involved and you want to be a part of the community, I think this is the best community I could ever want to be in. Thank you.
Next question, Mr. Hall, I think you're up first. This is actually going to be I'm going to combine two questions, similar topic. The new comprehensive plan says the town should be more walkable and bicycle friendly. How would you work to accomplish this? And part two of this, are you fully committed to the park-to-park trail, getting the town's part of it done?
The initial answer to both questions is yes, I am committed to it. I chair the Parks and Recreation Committee on Town Council. Being more walkable, more bicyclable in town is certainly necessary. And the park-to-park trail is one of my major topics that I'm going to focus on, of getting that completed in a timely manner. Now, granted, it's been going on for a long time, but we need to really start looking at getting that done sooner than later. And I am focused on getting that done.
The walkable in downtown Smithfield, the historic area, that's all walkable, very good. Problem is you can't get from Cypress Creek Bridge to the 7-Eleven that just got robbed, right down the street. So I'm all for extending that side from the Cypress Creek Bridge up to Battery Park Road and making that walkable in 3 lanes. It was slated to be 3 lanes when the five-lane bypass was put out there. And long story short, the VDOT ran out of money, so they couldn't do it. So they put it on a 40-year shelf. And here we are going to do the Smithfield section of the bike trail, or the multi-purpose trail, if you would. And that's much needed down Church Street from Cypress Creek Bridge to Battery Park Road. Yes, we do that. And while we're doing it, we need to put in the sidewalk on the east side, or the trail on the east side, not on the other side, but we have to put in curbs and gutters and storm drains. And while we're doing it, we just well go ahead and put up the 3rd lane. That part of the trail I'm 100% for. I'm very disappointed in the park trail from there to Nike Park. I go down that road at least once a day down it and turn around and come back going to Newton News, wherever I'm going. I've got a job down in that area I go to, and you hardly ever see anybody walking on that trail. They're just not there. But I guarantee you there'll be a lot of them going down from Cypress Creek Bridge, Battery Park Road. Thank you.
Mr. Bowman, the question is how you will work to fulfill the new comprehensive plan's goal to make Smithfield more walkable and bike-friendly. Number 1. Part 2, are you committed to seeing the park-to-park trail completed?
I think they're all basically one question and one package. I've gone on record in support of the improvements to South Church Street, 3-lane with the turn lane in the middle, and also with the multi-use path, bike path, and pedestrian path as well. I think walkability, of course, is good for the economy. It's also good for obviously physical health and well-being. I'm really want to see that the town work as diligently as we can with VDOT and with our state and federal partners to try to ensure that those improvements that are made to South Church Street are done under the Smart Scale project, where it doesn't cost the taxpayers of Smithfield totally out of their pocket. And you got to remember that South Church Street is also State Route 10 business, and I believe that VDOT ought to pony up the money as far as that's concerned for the improvements. But back to I'm definitely committed as far as it being part and parcel of that. There were some numbers that were thrown out before as far as just doing the bike-to-bike path, $3 million, just doing the South Church Street improvement, you're looking at 6. Now we're talking about $13 to $17 million. But I really think we ought to sharpen our pencils, do the very best we can to engage VDOT and ensure that this whole package comes to fruition. Thank you, Steve.
Pedestrian, bicycle friendly, we could start by replacing the sidewalks on Gray Street so that we can actually walk on it. I think Main Street is very pedestrian friendly. I even think the Gray Street is. It's a great place to walk. The bike path, although I do not want to spend that kind of money, I think since we've already started a commitment on this thing, it needs to go through. I really don't want to spend that kind of money, but it's a path to nowhere, and you're right, no one uses it. It's underutilized. We've already committed, or we've already spent a lot of money on that thing, but I think it needs to be completed. And Steve is right. I think VDOT should be a part of the discussion on this, and not just the town. And I agree with Carter as well when it comes to Cypress Creek and trying to get those folks to where they can get into town, whether that could be some sort of a path over to the park. I don't know, but there are options. When they're ideas, there are options. They just need to be looked at. But I think we could do a little bit better job of creating something where people can actually use it. Thanks.
I am 100% in favor of the multi-purpose trail on South Church Street to make walkability more accessible. It's a safety hazard right now because you see people walking on South Church Street. And the comments that I've heard from Steve and Jeff as far as getting VDOT involved, I know that the town manager is currently working with the Smart Scale program to get the funding so we won't have to tax the citizens. So I'm looking forward to that. The mayor may be disappointed in the trail or Nike Park. I'm looking forward to purchasing a bicycle to use it. I've walked it before, but, you know, it's really interesting. James Chapman told me he voted against that trail. So in taking him back and forth to the doctor, when we would come back, I would just ride him about town, and we rode through Nike Park one day. He said, oh, people are using it. And I think that more people will begin to use it.
Okay, let's do a lightning round. This one is really direct and should be quick to answer. We'll start with the mayor this time. Do you have any financial investments or businesses in Smithfield that might cause a conflict of interest for you serving on the town council? If yes, please disclose them tonight.
Absolutely none.
Mr. Bowman.
I do not, and my financial statement that I filed when I filed for election will reflect that. Thank you.
I have zero financial interest or business interest in this town, and I intend on keeping it that way.
I do not have any, even though my little group out there accused me of having financial interest because I am a realtor. But when I attended the VML conference, I got clarification on that, and I don't have any financial interest.
That would be a negative for me. I have no financial interest at all.
Next question, start with Mr. Bowman. In a specific way, the town of Smithfield, particularly its government, could be more transparent.
As I've heard walking around, there are some concerns about transparency. I think we've heard tonight about some folks on council have heard about certain plans, some have not heard about plans, and I wonder how that occurs. I think that if there are items that are to be considered by the town council, that closed sessions should be used very judiciously and only as a last resort. I think the votes that were made recently, I, as a member of council, would not have voted to go into closed session to make those votes. I think those that were concerned about transparency, when those votes were made, certainly bolstered their concerns about transparency. I just believe that government should be of, for, and by the people, and it should be nothing that's hidden behind closed doors unless it's absolutely necessary, and that is a far stretch. So I think that we should do a better job of making sure that we're open as far as our governmental matters are concerned. Thank you.
Transparency is part of the platform on what I'm running on. And I think that any decision-making of the council should be open to public comment at some point. I mentioned it earlier, closed-door sessions, I think have a place. However, what just happened here several weeks back, I highly disagree with. And you're right. If citizens are concerned about transparency, well, boy, we just blew that one. So live streaming is certainly a part of that equation as well. But the town government, take council out of it, I think does a terrific job. And if you need something done, and you want to call anybody that works for the town, you're going to get an answer. It might take you a while, but you're going to get an answer. With that, I'm finished. Thanks.
What was the question again, Steve?
Something specific you believe the town could do to make its government more transparent?
I've listened to what Steve and Jeff has to say. My goal is to be open, transparent, honest, and trustworthy to the people that I serve. I serve with a great group of people, but there are some concerns that I have, and they're probably based on the relationships that some of my colleagues have with other people. That sometimes when projects come before us, there are some of us that have a little bit more privy than others. As far as closed sessions are concerned, closed sessions have been defined as any topic in which there are negotiations on real estate, or if there is a personnel issue that we're discussing should be done in closed session. Now, we have a town attorney. If I don't know the legal aspect of it, I expect him to call us in on it. So if we're having closed sessions and don't have to have them, or it needs to be an open conversation in which the citizens can hear what we're discussing, then there's a problem with our town attorney. So that's my comment on that.
I will agree and disagree with a couple of things. One, the closed session, as Valerie alluded to, concerns negotiations and personnel matters. Yes, the town attorney is there, and he's been a town attorney for probably 30 years. He's very good at what he does, he's very sharp, and he will call us and tell us in these closed sessions if we're out on that. I have no professional or financial interest in anything that's going on in town or anything that's come before me as a voter. And I have voted my heart and what I think is right. And I will continue to do that. That's how I feel as far as being transparent. I think we have always been transparent. To my knowledge, I have always been that way, and I will continue to be. Thank you.
I don't like to go into closed sessions. I never have liked it, but I just have to follow along what the town attorney or the town manager kind of guides us into. A lot of times we go into closed session, we don't really know what we're going in there about. But it's not very many closed sessions that we go into. It's not many at all. People think it's a lot, but very, very seldom that I can remember that we do. But and again, a lot of people call me up, email me, and text me all the time about what's going on, or have an issue, or what you do in the closed session, and what's going on about that. Of course, I can't repeat anything in the closed session unless we bring it out of closed session and discuss it in open session. But then I can tell anybody what they need to know. So again, be transparent. Give me a call. I'll be glad to talk to anybody I can about any issue. Thanks.
Citizen wants to know that when, in cases where there's significant citizen opposition to something, would you consider having more public referendums on controversial issues? Mr. Brooks.
Repeat the question, please.
When there's significant citizen opposition to something before the town council, would you consider having public referendums on these hard questions?
Absolutely. And again, I came from towns where we had referendums come in front of the people. And when you have something that's very controversial or something that's possibly very expensive, you really need to have the public input. And we beat Mallory Scott pretty good, but I believe that would have been a perfect scenario to be brought up in a referendum. Because if the people don't want it and you still vote for it, and I hate to keep picking on that one, but if your constituents are very clear that they do not want something, or that they do want something, then yeah, I think it should be in the form of a referendum. Ms. Butler, would you support public referendums on
matters for which there's significant citizen opposition.
That's a tough question. Steve, I don't really have a yes or no answer. I do support referendums. I guess it depends on what the issue is. If it's a controversial subject, I would also like to see, in conjunction with a referendum, to see some type of public comments also prior to the referendum. I guess that's the best way I can answer it.
Mr. Hall.
I'm gonna go back to the Mallory Scott farm. There was a lot of voice against it from the public. Majority of the public was local town citizens, and a lot of the public opposed to it was not town citizens. I'm not opposed to a referendum, but it's got to be pretty clear that it's necessary to have the referendum, rather than just not listening to any of them at all.
Yes, I think it would be a lot easier on the council to have a referendum. I certainly agree.
Well, Steve, I believe that the citizens, every election day, have a referendum, have an opportunity to decide. Over the last 4 years, the people that they've put in have done the job the way they expected to do it, and they have served the will of the people and done what's right. That being said, I think if you have a referendum, it's a slippery slope. I agree if it's something that's extremely significant. I don't know what that might be. But if you start with a referendum and you abdicate your authority as council members, government can come to a screeching halt. Because if you have a referendum for one issue, then what's the next issue, what's the next issue, what's the next issue? The people have the greatest opportunity for a referendum is on election day, and I trust the people to be smart enough on election day to choose who they believe will be good leaders and good stewards of the tax dollars and good leaders for the town of Smithfield. Thank you.
We need to move into closing statements. Before we do, I'm going to read two more pretty broad questions that I think would be conducive to you all maybe addressing your closing statement. You might have prepared it ahead of time. I don't want to take you too off track, but they're important questions, but very broad. So just think about whether you might work these into your closing statements. Number one, what is the most pressing issue facing Smithfield right now? If you just had to pick one. Number two, what would you like for Smithfield to look like in 10 years? Consider working your responses into your closing statements, and we're going to start with the mayor. Mayor Williams. Yes.
So are we back to 1 minute or 90 seconds?
That's a good, what did I tell y'all had for, for closing statements? Was it, let's do 90 seconds, particularly since I just threw them a curveball of answering a couple more questions. Let's do 90 seconds, 90 seconds each. And again, consider those two good questions. Smithfield's most pressing need, and what do you want this town to look like in 10 years? Mayor, go ahead.
And this is a closing statement.
This is closing statement. That's right. 90 seconds.
So are we doing it in order that they drew?
Yes. Start with the mayor.
The most pressing in the town right now, I think, is what we are about to get a hold of by the tail is the greens on Main, or 10 greens, or whatever that's called over there. That's going to be a hot tomato, and I don't know where it's going to go or how it's going to go. We haven't seen anything on it yet, but it will be coming for much longer. We're gonna have a lot of input from citizens and everybody else. We've already had, but we just don't know a whole lot about it right now. And what the town's gonna look like in 10 years, I think the economy's gonna hold us to our heels right now for quite a while. I don't think it's gonna be growing a whole lot in 10 years. I think it's gonna be pretty much like it is now. I hope it's still a friendly town that it is, although there is people that maybe not think it's friendly, but yeah, I like the way this town's going. Other than that, I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight, and don't forget to vote. We don't have anything to vote for in this area here, except the two women that screaming and hollering at each other in this town council. So come out and vote. Thanks.
Mr. Brooks.
Yes, sir. I am the new guy in town, but I've also got a lot of good ideas, and I would appreciate the support on election day. And I think the most pressing issue right now is controlled growth, whether it's the new project going down at Grange at 10 Main, or if it's something else. I think that this town is being taxed quite a bit, and until we manage that growth, town council has the final say on these matters. Until that's managed, I think it's going to just continue to get out of hand. What would I like to see? What would I like Smithfield to look like in 10 years? I don't want to sound like an old fuddy, but I like it the way it is. I like the charm of downtown. I do think that we're gonna kind of be on the same sort of path, and I agree with Carter. I think it's gonna look a lot like what it does today. Now, I don't have a crystal ball, but I'd like to see us continue in a very smart, managed growth pattern. Thank you.
Ms. Butler.
As I stated from the very beginning, I am running for re-election, as I like to be part of the growth in Smithfield over the next 4 years. I think one of our most pressing issues right now is economic development and controlled growth. We have the Mallory Scott Farm subdivision, which has been approved. First phase will probably break ground first part of next year. And I think that we need to be on top of that subdivision to make sure that the developer is doing what he says he's going to do and is going in a direction in which is favorable for the town. Unlike Jeff and Mayor Williams, I think Smithfield is going to look different in the next 10 years. Mallory Scott Farm subdivision over the next 10 years, you're talking about 800 units. I think downtown Smithfield, the historic district, will probably remain the same, and I'm hoping that we can continue to preserve the downtown Smithfield, Main Street, Grace Street, South Church Street, because people visit Smithfield for downtown Main Street, as well as the historic homes on South Church Street. And I'm hoping that the new project makes it walkability to the historic district. Thank you.
Mr. Bowman.
I think it's the question to be combined. What's our pressing issue? What's the biggest pressing issue? What is this place going to fingerprint on what goes on? So we have to be very, very judicious, very, very careful. As good stewards of tax dollars, as good stewards as far as controlled development is concerned. Stay with the comprehensive plan that we have that's in place the best we possibly can, because we have good planning commissioners that put in a lot of work, and citizens that put in a lot of work to make sure that program or that product was well done. One of the things that I don't like about running for public office is I don't like to beat my own drum, and I took a long, hard look before I decided to run for council. Then I decided if not me, then whom. The years years that I have as far as experience are concerned, managing at the highest level of state government, and the life experience that I've had have basically prepared me, I think, to hit the ground running on day one. And I'd just like to read two things, if I could, as far as what others have said about me. Both of them are from Senate Joint Resolutions from the Virginia General Assembly. And one is Senate Joint Resolution 253. It says, whereas Steve Bowman's unparalleled commitment and devotion to public service won him respect and admiration from his colleagues and associates on many occasions, and resolved by the Senate of the House of Delegates concurring that the General Assembly hereby commends Stephen G. Bowman on his devoted and time-honored service to the citizens of the Commonwealth of Virginia. And furthermore, Senate Joint Resolution 207, Steve Bowman demonstrated steady leadership throughout his tenure as Commissioner and served the Commonwealth with utmost integrity and dedication. In the House of Delegates, the General Assembly hereby commends Steve Bowman for his legacy of outstanding service as Commissioner of the Virginia Marine Resources Commission. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate your support, and I promise you that if I'm elected to Town Council, I'll do my job here as Town Council the same manner I did at the state government level. Thank you very much.
We gave Mr. Bowman 20 extra seconds. Do y'all, any of y'all want 20 seconds to make good time? Anybody got any final thoughts? Very good. Thank you to our candidates. Thank you for putting yourselves forth. Oh, Mr. Hall has not given his closing statement.
Mission number 5. I was 4.
Terrible of me. I am so sorry. Mr. Hall, closing statement. And you can't have 20 extra seconds.
Ladies and gentlemen, I do want to thank you for coming out tonight, for your support, and for showing your concern for this community. What I think it's going to be like 10 years from now, it's going to be a little bit bigger, but I still would like to see the same charm and friendliness that we have experienced now. Going forward, we need to be aware of our comprehensive plan and stick to our guns. We need to control growth, but we do need to grow, and we're going to have to grow to survive. But we need to control it. And I want to be a part of it. That's why I'm running for re-election. I've been here off and on for 50, 60 years, somewhere in that area. I came here when I was 13, I'm 75 now, so do the math. I've been in and out for a while, but I'm committed to this area. I've been a firefighter, sheriff's department, law enforcement, and I still love this community, and I want to continue to be here. Thank you for your support. Thank you for coming out.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. So sorry about that. Thank you, citizens, for coming out. Vote early or on November 8th, right? Lots of good opportunities. Get to pick 4 of these 5 up here. So lots of choices. Thank you all for coming out. Great crowd. I think at its peak we had 20 some odd watching on the live stream. That's good. So we test out that technology. Thanks again, Chris Borum, Iowa White County Schools, for helping us with our technology. Amy Novak and Calvin Kelly with the town. Appreciate y'all too. And great timekeeping by Renee Bevan. Y'all have a good evening.